right. Well, hey, welcome to our BAM session today. I wanted to talk in this session about how to dominate your local market. All right. So, my goal with our company is to build an army of agents who are dominating in each of your local markets. So, I want to talk today about what that might look like in your market. So, I'm going to share my screen and do a little let me see here, get to my BAM session. Okay, hopefully you can see my screen there. And Scott, can you see my screen? Does that look so far so good? Okay, cool. So how to dominate your local market. I want to be strategic about this and just give you some pointers. Hopefully this will be helpful. And hopefully by the end of the week, all of you will be dominating. Well, at least by the end of the year. It takes a little bit of time. So, okay, first thing I want to give you some pointers on with this for dominating your local market. Number one, you've got to define what your local market is. So I would recommend, as far as defining the market where you want to dominate, I would recommend that you start out with the neighborhood where you live. So if you can't dominate in the neighborhood where you live, there's a chance you're probably not going to dominate in other neighborhoods where you don't live. So I would start out there. Most agents, 80% of the homes that they sell tend to be within 20% of the price of the home in which they live. Okay? So if you live in a $200,000 house, 80% of the homes that you sell are probably going to be within 20% of the price of that $200,000 house that you live in. That's just the kind of rule of the universe. Seems to work out that way. So I see some agents, they live in apartments, or they live in a trailer park, or they live kind of in the lower end of the spectrum for housing, and they want to sell $1 million homes tomorrow. Well, there's a journey there. There's a process. It's probably not going to happen immediately. First, you got to figure out how to dominate the market where you live. Okay, so you want to define it. I would start with there, but once you start getting some traction in your own market, then there's ways to start building it and getting into other markets. So we're going to talk about that, but I would start with the market where you live and then start expanding from there. And I would say it's even okay to go a step or two above the market where you live, and that's how you're going to get into some of those new markets. But you want to start out with where you live, make that your first target. Okay. So the next thing I would say, as far as dominating your local market, and this is just me. This is how my brain works, and this may or may not work for you. I am incurably competitive. Okay. So if I want to dominate in a specific market, one of the first things I'm going to do is I'm going to figure out who are the major players in that market. I want to see what does success look like? Who are those people who are successful in that market right now? And then I do an assessment. What are they doing? What are they doing? How did that person become successful in that market? And a lot of times they're successful because they live in the neighborhood. And so that's one thing. Sometimes they're successful because they're buying tons and tons of Zillow leads or Realtor.com leads, and they're spending a lot of money that way. Sometimes they are just the listing machine for that neighborhood, or maybe some of them are doing big events for that community, or maybe some of them have a Facebook group for that community. So I would figure out who are the top players in that market. What are they doing? And as you're looking through that, you can always figure out what's the weakness in what they're doing compared to what you can be doing. So a lot of times, like I would go on a listing appointment and there's a dominant agent in the market. And, you know, when I know they're selling 50 or 100 homes a year in that market, one thing I know is there is no way possible that they're giving personal care to every listing. So as I'm competing, that might be one of the weaknesses I would find. They're not giving personal care. They get the listing, move on, and the homeowner never hears from them again. So when I'm doing a listing appointment and they say, how will you do it different than this agent? I can say, well, I can tell you I'll give you more personal service. And that works out great when before you're a dominant player, you have one or two listings, you can give personal service to play that card. Figure out what are the weaknesses of those agents or the dominant agents. What is it that you can provide that they can't, and then play that card, so exploit their weaknesses. But you have to figure out what they're doing, who they are, what they're doing, how did they get there, and how can you emulate that. And if you can do it just 1% better than what those agents are doing, then you're going to end up taking over that market. So figure out how are they marketing, what do go to their open houses, pick up their flyers from the houses, figure out how are they marketing these houses. And when I was new in the industry, I was like a collector of flyers for properties. I'd look at the flyer and say, I can do that. Or if I couldn't do that, I'd think, I wonder how I could figure out how to do this. And so eventually I was able to develop those skills. But a lot of it came from figuring out who the top players are and figuring out how I can beat them. And that's what I've done as a broker as well. I figured out who are the top players, what are they doing, how can I beat them at that, and how can I do something better than what they're doing. Okay, the next step, number 3, is you've got to develop a plan. Okay, you can't just hope it happens. Some agents get their license, and they get their business cards and they throw it up on social media. They say, look at me, I'm a realtor, and they just kind of hope it happens. But it never happens by hoping it happens. It only happens if you set up a plan. Okay, so there's going to be certain things that you've got to figure out. You've got to set up a marketing plan. And if you don't know how to set up a marketing plan, 2 things I would say. Let's meet. I'll help you with that. The other thing I would say is consult with ChatGPT. ChatGPT can give you a great marketing plan for reaching a specific segment of the market. But you've got to figure out, have a marketing plan. How are you going to market to become a dominant player? And if I was consulting ChatGPT, I would specifically put those words into your question. I want to be the dominant agent in this neighborhood, in this zip code, in this suburb. I want to be whatever that market is. I would say, I want to be the dominant agent there. How can I get to be that agent? Let ChatGPT help you with that. But there's a lot of things that you can be doing. Community service, social media. You've got to figure these things out. Direct mail, mailbox hangers, sphere of influence, working your sphere of influence, community events, online leads, geo farming, expired leads for sale by owners. So I would set up a plan. I would set up on a sheet of paper or on a digital notebook or something, or a spreadsheet. I would list out marketing strategies just like what I have right here. I would make a list of these things, and I would then do a feasibility study to see, okay, how feasible is it for me to get involved in community service projects for that neighborhood? How feasible is it for me to do direct mail in that neighborhood? How feasible is it for me to do mailbox hangers? So I would set up a budget. What's that going to cost if I do that? How often can I do that? And then I would set up a marketing calendar. So if I was marketing, especially, let's just say you're marketing to a very specific neighborhood and there's 200 homes in that neighborhood, and you want to be the dominant agent in that neighborhood. Maybe it's your neighborhood, or maybe it's the neighborhood around the corner from you, but you want to be the dominant player there. I would set up a marketing calendar, and I would say, okay, what are we? We're in October, almost November. I'd say, okay, in November, actually, if I were doing this, I would start in January. I would say, here we are towards the end of the year. I would say in January, I want to set up a social media Facebook group for this neighborhood. They don't appear to have one. I'm going to set up a Facebook group for that neighborhood, and also in January and every month, I'm going to do a direct mail piece of one postcard to this neighborhood, 12 months in a row, in that neighborhood. I'm also going to do mailbox hangers, and I'm going to schedule these so that they're 2 weeks apart. So they'll get the mail 2 weeks later. I'm going to go through and put out a couple hundred mailbox hangers. And then I would be connecting with my sphere of influence and be trying to figure out how to get connections in that neighborhood. But you might schedule a campaign for February where you're going to reach out to your sphere of influence and try to make connections for that area. And then in March, you can set up a community event. We're going to have, or maybe an Easter egg hunt in March or April for that community. And you can put up signs and whatever. These are just examples. I was driving through some neighborhoods last night, and I saw, I'm always looking for investment properties. And I was driving through a couple neighborhoods, and they were having Halloween parties for the neighborhood, for just, everyone get together. And I realized this Halloween event was sponsored by a realtor, and they had probably 100 families at this event because the realtor put on a Halloween trunk or treat event right in their neighborhood. And then, so these are events that you could be doing. Online leads, you might have, and I would set these things up in your calendar when you're going to start doing these things. You might say, beginning in April, I'm going to start purchasing online leads, and I'm going to purchase those from April until October, or something like that. Now, I have noticed a lot of agents who are dominant in their markets, they tend to buy Zillow leads. So don't disparage Zillow leads. I see agents getting rich off of Zillow leads, so don't disparage those. I know it's an emotional topic. Most of us we kind of shudder when we hear of Zillow because it seems like they don't necessarily have our best interest in mind. I get that, but a lot of top agents who are dominating in a neighborhood, they're spending thousands of dollars per month on leads for those neighborhoods, and they spend the thousands, but they can be getting 5 or 10 times their investment back through commission. So do some research, figure out the feasibility of that, and figure out what you can do. Maybe online leads can be part of your strategy, and geo farming. This is another thing that dominant agents are doing. Back to the direct mail thing, dominant agents are hitting a neighborhood, and they're hitting it hard, and they're hitting it month after month with direct mail, so that they are becoming the dominant agent in that area. Expired listings and for sale by owners are a great strategy for dominating in a local market, because, and I would say it this way, anytime you see an expired listing within that circle of wherever that market is you're wanting to dominate, you make sure they're getting a call from you, and stop by and hand it off and pack it to them. For sale by owners, any for sale by owners in that neighborhood where you're wanting to be doing work, you got to make sure you're reaching out to those people. So these are just some ideas. Once we get through this section, I'd love to hear your ideas. Some of you are already dominating in major markets or minor markets. And I'd love to hear your ideas, what you've done that's worked. I'd also like to hear your ideas and things you've done that haven't worked, because sometimes you can save other people the heartache if you tell us what some ideas and things that didn't work. So, okay, the fourth thing, you've got to become the most knowledgeable person in your market. If you want to be dominant in your market, you have to be a knowledge player. You've got to be a knowledge expert. People have to see you as the authority. So you've got to learn market trends and pricing. You've got to be aware of who the key players are in that neighborhood, maybe even get to know them a little bit in one way or another. and you need to get your head around what's the inventory, what homes are available in that neighborhood or that market, what is available, what are the interest rates, what are the property values, where are they appreciating, what's the days on market. So learn these statistics, and we've talked about it in the past, but one great resource that can help you become a market expert is Keeping Current Matters. And I don't get any money by telling you that, but I can tell you that will help you to establish yourself as a market expert. I would recommend that you subscribe. I think it's $100 per month for the premium, and then that's $1,200 a year. There's no doubt you can get your $1,200 back because of the resources that they give you. They can automate your social media, keep things posting for you without you having to put a lot of thought into it. But one of the greatest things about Keeping Current Matters is they keep the market updates coming every day. So you can read their stuff, and you can become an expert as you are learning it day after day after day. You're spending time to read it. So you want to be researching and you want to be studying every day. Be watching YouTube videos, be watching news headlines, be watching bulletins that are put out by the local board of realtors, and just any information you can get a hold of. You want to be reading it, grasping it. So when you're having a conversation with a seller or a buyer, they're going to see you know what you're talking about. And after I did this for many years, when I was first in the business, I used to wear a tie, shirt and tie, and look, my shoes were shined perfectly. And I was one of those realtors that I didn't know the market as well. So I had to look like I knew the market. It's that fake it until you make it thing. But eventually I became so knowledgeable about the market. I truly was an expert. And I wouldn't necessarily recommend this. You have to figure out where you're at. But I could show up to a listing appointment in flip flops and shorts. And because of my knowledge, I would get the listing because they knew this guy knows what he's talking about. So that's where you want to get to that level. And it comes through daily research and daily studying. So the fifth thing, develop the new skills it will take to become number one. So the chances are great that whoever is dominating that market currently, they have a certain set of skills. I always think of the movie Taken when I say that, but they have a certain set of skills that have gotten them to that level. And if I were you, I would recommend you figure out what were the skills that they had that got them there. And maybe they know graphic design, or they know people who can do graphic design, or maybe they know marketing, or they have certain strategies they're doing. Figure it out. What are the skills? And there's a great chance you're going to have to learn new skills to get to the next level. And the skills that you're going to have to learn probably aren't obvious. Okay. Like for me, some of the skills that I've been learning over the last several years have to do with video, technology. How do how do I do lighting? How do I do video? And so that's been the skill set I've been learning. I didn't know all that stuff several years ago, and it's kind of it's a tech nerd type thing. But you might have to learn something like that. You might say, "Oh gosh, I don't know how to do video. I know I see people doing it, and I don't know how to do it." Well, we'll learn it. There's videos on how to do video, and so take time to learn the new skill. Maybe it's video, but maybe it's social media. Maybe it's just getting to that first base of really understanding social media. So learn it. Don't just hope it happens. Get in there and pull apart and watch YouTube videos and podcasts that are going to teach you how to use social media or whatever those things might be. Learn technology, learn about cameras, learn about lighting, learn about audio, or whatever it might be. Those are some video examples. But learn the skills. Maybe it's design. You need to learn how to do design better, or maybe learn how to use Canva. There's very few real estate seminars where they're teaching skills like that, but learn to use these things. By the way, we're going to do a BAM session in a few weeks on how to use Canva, because some of you could really profit from learning just that one software package alone. And so we're going to train you on that. AI, artificial intelligence. You might say, well, I don't understand it. I don't get it. Well, that would be a good skill to learn. You can quickly get to where your competitors are through using artificial intelligence. But it takes time. It takes time to learn these things, but the payoff is immense. And personally, I learn things primarily through three different categories: books, YouTube, and coaching. So, and I would say YouTube is number one. Uh, Books is probably number two because of, and for me, a book is an audio book. Like, who has time to sit down and read something like this these days? I do have books, and these are great, but I really profit from the audio books more than anything, because I'm constantly listening to audio. Audiobooks are great, YouTube is great, but I'm very purposeful in my listening to YouTube. And then coaching, I've definitely had personal coaching through the years. I've had coaching like a Zoom coach. Did you know that's a thing? I've paid people to help me learn how to do in Zoom. And you can probably say, yeah, Chris, probably need to spend a little bit more money on that, because obviously it didn't pay off. But I'm always trying to learn how can I do things a little bit better. So let me see here. So those are the keys to dominating. But one thing I'll say on that coaching category, coaching is probably one of the quickest ways for you to take a shortcut from being in 10th place to first place. So I would recommend that you consider hiring a coach who can help you get to the next level. And of the coaches that I would recommend, I have these coaches in order of the value of that I've gotten from coaches online. So I would recommend that you consider potentially Tom Ferry. He's a great coach. And I don't get any money for saying this stuff, but Tom Ferry, he has great content. And one of the things about Tom Ferry is he has amazing events every year where the people he coaches, he brings them together. And now, one of the things about events, just personality wise, I'm not the type of guy that like to go to an event where it's rah, rah, rah. Okay, give a back rub to the person next to you. Okay, from the other side, give a back rub to the person on your left. That kind of thing doesn't fit me. I like to go to an event and I sit in the back where no one sees me, and I just kind of do my own thing. I take in the content. But events can be great, especially if it's in conjunction with coaching. And Tom Ferry, they do some of the best events in the country. Jackie Kravitz is another coach that I've highlighted on this channel. If you want to, let me put it like this: if you want to be a dominant agent in your market, in your neighborhood or your market, however you define that, you're going to have to find lots of people who will put your sign up in their yard. Okay. You need them to put your sign up in their yard. You know how you do that? By listing properties. Okay. Is that magical or what? I know that's, you never thought of that, right? The way you get your sign up in people's yards is you have to list their properties with their permission, right? So in other words, my point is, if you want to be a dominant agent, you're going to have to learn the skill to become a listing agent. That's where you've got to move from. The easy, comfortable thing is to work with buyers. 80% of agents work with buyers, and a lot of that's because it's easier and it's comfortable, and you don't really have to push much. It's just you're an order taker. They want a 4-bedroom, 2.5-bath house, so you find that house for them. And so that's fun. It's easy. The hard part is getting into being a listing agent. And if you want to dominate in your market, somehow you've got to figure out how to become a listing agent in that market. And of all these coaches, I would probably put Jackie Kravitz at the top of training you on how to be a listing agent. Tom Ferry is great. Jackie Kravitz is great. Brandon Mulrenan is amazing. Ricky Caruth, Brian Eisenhower, Jeff Glover. All of these coaches are fantastic. All of them will train you how to be a listing agent in addition to everything else that you're doing as an agent. But I would say it'll be well worth the investment. Now, you might be paying $1,000 a month or more to go through coaching. And you might be thinking, oh my gosh, I can't afford that. And I would say what will happen, that's what, $12,000 a year, maybe $18,000 a year for coaching. But I guarantee if you go through coaching, they're going to give you many, many, many times, maybe 10 times the amount of income in return to what you spend for that coaching. So it's definitely worth it. And one of the things they do is they help you to be accountable. So, most people know what it takes to lose weight, right? If I were to do a survey in this group and ask you, how do you lose weight? Most of you would be experts on this. You'd say, well, number one, eat less food. And number two, exercise more, right? All of us know that. But sometimes it takes a personal trainer who will say, hey, did you work out this week? Hey, did you eat donuts this week? How many milkshakes did you eat this week? So you have a personal trainer who's in there probing into your life, helping you be accountable and finding out your habits in your life. What have you done? So I highly recommend that you consider hiring a coach, because these coaches can 10x your income almost at any income level that you're at. If you're currently making $30,000 a year, these coaches can get you to $300,000. If you're making, $100,000 a year, these coaches can get you to $500 to $1 million a year in income. There's people going through these coaching sessions, and one of the things I've noticed as I've been a student of the highest producing agents in America, and almost without exception, they all have coaches. They all have coaches. So I would present that as something for you to consider, that you would consider hiring a coach. Try it for 6 months or 12 months. But I would be very selective in who you get. Don't just take anyone who says they're a coach. I would take the very best. I would go to the very best coaches in the country who are coaching other people at the highest levels. So anyway, those are some of the ideas I had for dominating your market. I'm sure there's a lot of other stuff. I'd love to hear from you guys. Do you have any ideas? What are some things you've done that have worked, or what are some things you've tried and maybe it didn't work? Or do you have any questions on some of the things that we covered today?
Chris, I can share some things.
Yeah, let's hear it, Marcy. I'd love to hear it.
Good morning, everyone. I would like to say that all of these are fabulous ideas. I noticed you didn't have Brian Buffini on your list. He's someone that I took coaching from years ago. And basically, they all have some, value. And it might be their personality that jives better with you than another coach. So whichever one you're willing to listen to. But honestly, they give you work to do. They tell you this is your homework. And if you don't do any of the things, like you're our coach, really, you're a fantastic coach. This, dominating your market, encouragement training this morning is just reminding me of the things I haven't done in the last 30 days. So I got to sit down. I got to do it now. We can talk about it all we want, but you really have to get out there and do it. And maybe the accountability thing is the way to do it. And don't use your spouse. You got enough problems with that. Just find someone that you can respect. And when they bug you and say, did you make your 50 phone calls this week, or whatever it is that you set as your goal, you really have to just do the work. Other things that I've done successfully over the years is to really get involved with the community. So memberships with the chambers of commerce or other professional organizations where you're visible at these, maybe weekly or monthly meetings, and you always have materials to share with them. Like, here's what just happened in this neighborhood, just little handouts for everyone. People are constantly talking about real estate. So I've sponsored adult men's softball, and that was always great because my name was on the backs of all their shirts for 10 years, and that went a long way. When those young men started to buy houses, they came to me. So, all of that is just being visible and consistency. Those are my takeaways.
That's outstanding stuff. Thank you. And that made me think when you talked about sponsoring a sports team, that reminds me, one of your goals, if you want to dominate a market, and I'm speaking these terms because I'm competitive, and I'm imagining there are some of our agents who are competitive. I don't want to be average. I want to dominate. It's kind of a game for me. But what you're looking for is ubiquity. You want to have a ubiquitous presence in the market. Okay. So what that means is that you're everywhere at the same time. And so if they go shopping, there's your name on a shopping cart. If they're driving down the road, there's your name on a billboard. If they go to a soccer game, there's your name on the jersey. If they're at a stoplight, there's your name on a magnet on the car next to you. So they're just, those are examples. You don't have to do all of those things, but somehow you have to figure out a way so that you're ubiquitous. They keep bumping into your name everywhere. So I would set that out as, put that in your mind that that's a thing, and figure out how to create a ubiquitous presence in your market. For me, listing tons and tons of homes was definitely the way to become ubiquitous. That was my best strategy, but all these other things work as well. What other ideas out there? Selena, did I see that hand?
Yes. Good morning. So actually this was from another piece of Marcy's intelligence, and everything that she does over there is, and we're finally starting to listen, sorry. We started doing some circle prospecting in the neighborhood. So I'm in Parma. So what I would do is I would research which houses just went up within the last 7 days in Parma, go to that area, and I would have like the buyer flyer, and I would go door to door, basically just saying, hello, my name is Linda Tafanti. I'm a local realtor. I'm pretty sure you noticed that the house up the street from you just went on the market. I am going door to door, letting people know about that and asking if they know of anybody who's looking to buy or sell within the next 6 months. And I've gotten, pretty good results. People are like, oh wow, like I didn't know that house was going for that much. I didn't know because you're giving them that kind of information and being like, yeah, this is what's going on in your neighborhood. These are what the prices are like. Houses are staying for this much time on the market and stuff like that. So I've had a lot of great conversations with them. I'm actually writing my little thank you notes to them right now. And I got an embosser. I don't know if you can see that. Do you see the plum?
Yeah. Nice.
Okay, there you go. I'm like, so I got the embosser and started doing that. Marcy said to use some wax, but it was just taking too long.
Yeah, the wax seal is classy, but it doesn't work well with the post office requirements. They've changed over the years. So
yeah,
embossing is the way to go. Good job.
Yes, thank you. So I got that off of Amazon and I styled it on Canva. So Canva has some really good stuff. I actually paid for the premium or whatever it is, $120 a month. I'm sorry, a week. Sorry, A year. A year. Oh my goodness, I'm sorry. So that was pretty good. And then we actually just had a listing go up and we made some flyers for it. And on Saturday, we actually went door to door telling people about our listing. And I think we hit about 70 houses and we passed out around 36 of our flyers from that. So, and somebody actually said that they were looking to buy, two people actually said they were looking to purchase soon. And a couple of people said that they know somebody who's looking and they'll give them our information.
That's awesome. Nice job. So you use the term circle prospecting. So for those who are not aware of that concept, do you mind describing circle prospecting and how you
Sure.
use it?
Yeah, so basically, here's the house, and then I go to like 10 houses this way, 10
Wait,
houses that way,
wait,
and it makes a
wait. When you
circle.
say here's the house,
Sorry, here's the
which
house that
house
just
are
went
you?
on the market.
Okay, got it.
Here's the house that just went on the market, and then I just go around to all of the neighboring houses, and I do that. So on Thursday, I actually visited 52 houses, and yeah, it was a lot of walking, but at the end of my circle prospecting time, I actually was able to play with the dog and play fetch, and it was really cute.
Yeah, that's great. So it's so circle prospecting, and Marcy, feel free to jump in there as well. The way that I've traditionally uh, used that is you like Selena said, there you take a listing that's existing. Now that listing can be your listing, but it can also be somebody else's listing. It's always best if it's your listing, but you can also go off of another listing and just say, hey, there's a home. You can say, I've got a listing over here around the corner, or there is a listing over here. I'm looking to find a buyer, and then like Selena's providing information about that listing, so you find the neighborhood around that. So you're prospecting for buyers in that neighborhood. And what happens is people are so impressed typically that you're actually working. Like most agents don't work. They put a sign in the yard and move on to the next one. But this demonstrates real effort in marketing, and you end up picking up more listings. And sometimes you actually pick up buyers, but you definitely leave an impression on people. When you're working that hard. So I don't know if you have anything else you want to add, Marcy or Selena.
So, when we were actually doing our circle prospecting for our listing on Saturday, my mom was like, I just want to lay down right here in the leaves and just make a leaf angel. And I was like, hold on a second, don't do anything just yet. Let me get my phone out. So we made a TikTok of the leafy area. I went up and I looked at all of the leaves in the trees with the beautiful sky, and she hurried up, ran in there, started making a leaf angel, and I got that on footage as well. And I said, taking a break from finding a buyer for our seller. And yeah, da, 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 da. It's like, yes, we actually go and we look for buyers.
Yes,
Those
absolutely.
outrageous videos are what get all the attention.
Yep.
So there's an agent that was with us at a former brokerage, and he literally stands in front of the mirror, brushing his teeth in the morning, dancing, and it gets like thousands of hits. And he's killing it. He just sold 7 houses last month. I mean, people just follow him. And then he goes on vacation. He takes all his silly videos while he's on vacation. I'm not going to be that person, but I love the leaf angel, Maria. That is just precious. Yeah, you'll get people following, and then you'll become viral, and then you'll be dominating that market.
Yeah, that's great. I love the creative ideas. Hey, Chris Johnson, do you think you could test market that brushing the teeth video concept and report back next week? Let us know how that goes.
Well, I did just get my braces off.
Oh,
50,
nice.
52-year-old dude with braces, but that was a long time coming.
I thought your smile looked just a little bit better today. I couldn't quite put my finger on it.
So yeah, maybe I should show my choppers off.
Yeah.
See where that gets me.
Yeah. Yep. All right. Well, hey, any other questions, thoughts, comments?
Chris,
Any other ideas?
I heard an idea that I planned on trying this weekend at an open house. We ask people for feedback. We ask them, if they're to sign in. But one question I was going to pose to people at an open house this coming weekend was, would you be interested in knowing about off-market properties in the neighborhood? And because I think that's something that people who would normally be shy about signing in or giving you any information, that's a value add that they're like, wow, if there's properties that I'm looking for a house, if there's properties that I don't know about, I'd sure like to know about it. And then once you have that, do a mailing to the neighborhood saying, I have buyers interested in your neighborhood. I have, whether it be pre-approved buyers or cash buyers or whatever. And then putting those buyers and sellers together. It could give you an opportunity to get a listing. It could, if someone's not quite ready to list, but you could let a prospective buyer that you met at an open house know about it and maybe put them together and get a deal together. So I thought it was worth a try.
That's fantastic. And who are the people that you were able to find interest as far as who would you ask that to?
I would ask it to people at an open house, as if hopefully they'll buy the house that I'm in, but if someone doesn't buy it, I could say, hey, would you be interested in off-market properties in the area? And it happens to be a neighborhood that I've sold a lot of homes in. We've bought houses off-market in. We have done a lot of mailing in the neighborhood, and to just get a list of prospective buyers in the neighborhood so that when I reach out to sellers, it may be a house I would want to buy to flip because I do that, or it may be a house that a buyer that I've met would be interested in. Some houses just don't need flip. They may be in great condition the way they are, and that might be appropriate for a buyer I meet. Another idea I had is getting ready to list a house this week in the neighborhood. The photographer is going out today, and I'm telling him to take some B-roll of the neighborhood, just drone footage, fly over, and maybe try to feature a couple of the, in his drone footage, feature a couple of the large employers. There's a big hospital and a big glass factory near the neighborhood, kind of on either side of the neighborhood. So just kind of get some of those landmarks in there and get some B-roll. So when I do list things in there, I can put that B-roll at the beginning of the videos and just make it jump out compared to what other agents are doing in there. And then maybe do like a neighborhood profile video, what I like about the neighborhood, what I've learned about the neighborhood, what's convenient to the neighborhood, and put that out there to kind of position myself as an expert on that local micro market.
That's great. And I suspect that there's a possibility there might be agents here who don't know what B-roll is. Do you mind explaining that a little bit?
Yeah, just kind of generic footage of an area. So, think of like a picturesque downtown area near where you live, where you operate your business, and just some drone footage of that. So think of what you see when you're looking at a lot of videos, and it's the flyover stuff before it gets to the content of the video, or something as you're talking in a video. You might be able to mix these visuals in to give folks some perspective about the area you're talking about.
Yeah, that's fantastic.
I just learned this past month what B-roll was all about, like why they call it B-roll. And it had to do with the history of film, that they would record the audio on one roll and the video on another roll before they blended them together. Today, they record it all together, but the B-roll is the extra footage. So.
Well, and now that you're talking, Marcy, do you mind, not to put you on the spot or anything, but I know you're doing a lot with video right now. for highlighting community
Yes.
businesses and stuff. And I just think that's a fantastic way to become dominant in the market. And I think that would be a really cool example to share. Do you mind sharing a little bit about that?
No, I'd be happy to. It's American Dream TV, and it is an expensive proposition, but it's like you said, if you look at it and spread it out over the year, when you get one deal, it actually covers your whole concept. And for me, it's really put me more into the commercial market by featuring businesses and establishments. I get some of the attention for residential real estate, but a lot of commercial real estate, which unfortunately takes longer to close. They're bigger transactions, but they are in depth, and a lot of manpower goes into the due diligence with your client, et cetera. But what it is just featuring, and some of our agents are doing the same thing. I know Selena and Maria cover neighborhoods, and Shawnee and her friend, I can't remember her name. Oh my God.
Carrie.
Thank you. Yeah, Sherry and Shawnee, they go out and they'll cover areas too. I have, this is a really professional setup, and I have a videographer who follows me around, and I have a mic, and they let me write my own storyboards and select my candidates to interview. But when I arrive in town, I'm wearing my press pass, and all the businesses take note, and it's kind of fun. And we just did a feature in Peninsula, Ohio, which is a little historic town. And this guy in an antique car came up and said, "Do you want to go for a ride?" And we got that. It was completely unplanned, but I'm handing out my cards everywhere I go, and it's really a great way to get recognized. So people know who I am. And another thing I do, Chris, is I do the town planner calendar, which there's only one person, one industry represented in each of the neighborhood calendars. So for years, I've been the realtor in our local town planner area for the calendar. And that way, when people put the calendar up, they actually see my face every single month. And then when they bump into me out and about, they'll say, "You look so familiar." Go, "Well, I'm probably hanging on your refrigerator right now. I'm in the town planner calendar." So anything you can put in front of people works to stay top of mind. A lot of people did like sports calendars, the little magnets. If you follow the local sports team. I know the Pinters have a fun thing they do. They will give you the Browns schedule or the Steelers schedule as a calendar for your refrigerator. So they have to, ask which camp are you in? But it gets them, top of mind. They also do billboards. Billboards is a good way to go. Highly visible.
That's all really great. And one of the things I liked about the videos, it made me think, because they do a lot of B-roll. So while you're talking and narrating,
Yes.
they're showing what you're talking about in the video. So it's not just a talking head.
Yeah.
It's like definitely a professional production.
Right.
I noticed Paula mentioned Peter McKinnon is an awesome source for learning photography and videography. And I have to admit, Peter McKinnon is one of the people I've definitely nerded out on for years, watching his stuff. There's zero, you can't identify my video with his because his is so different than mine. But technical things like when Peter McKinnon says he uses a certain type of light, I went out and bought the light. So I've got the light that Peter McKinnon uses. When he says he uses a certain type of camera, I look at the camera and I say, well, that's a $10,000 camera. Never mind. So I don't buy that camera, but I get a Sony camera. But I've learned so much by watching people like Peter McKinnon. And I thought I'm probably the only 58-year-old guy on Saturday mornings watching these YouTube nerds nerding out on videography and stuff. But thank you, Paula, for sharing that. It's a really good tip there. So any other ideas or thoughts, comments? All right. Well, what a great group today. Hopefully, there were some good things to learn, and go out and start hustling, working, learning, and let's dominate each of the markets. And if we can be a help, don't hesitate to reach out. So go have a fantastic week. Go make some money and go dominate those markets.